Well, let's talk about the NATO alliance and where it stands today with Asha Castleberry, national security and foreign policy expert, and Jerrod, labor foreign policy columnist and contributor to Young Voices. Thanks to both of you for being here.
Thank you.
Asha, I'll start with you. The president's been saying for some time that NATO countries don't pay their fair share and they need to step up their own defense spending. And according to the president, his message is working. I mean, these NATO members, at least some of them, are paying more.
Yes, his efforts are working, but this is nothing new.
Yeah.
This has been going on for quite some time in terms of continuity for pushing NATO members to pay more, even going before, the President Obama's administration. But looking at it internally, there has been roughly around 7 members who have increased their pay. But the only problem is that we have here is that it's still the priority in terms of to talk about when it comes to NATO, not necessarily talking about what they're doing in supporting our contingency operations in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. So this is like the talking point that President Trump brings up.
All about the money, it seems, yeah.
Yes.
Well, Jerrod, the president has even gone so far as to say he'll pull the U.S. out of NATO if countries don't boost their defense spending. If so, would he be taking his America First platform, do you think, too far?
No, I don't think so. In fact, I think NATO is a relic of an age that passed. It may have been necessary and useful during the Cold War, but the Soviet Union has been gone for quite some time. And frankly, I think the problem with NATO is sort of a problem, a broader problem of sort of liberal hegemony in America's reach overseas. NATO encourages sort of an interventionist mindset, I think, on the part of the U.S. government and U.S. foreign policy. And it becomes very easy to intervene in other countries where you probably shouldn't be when you have unbridled military access. If you think about, the Iraq War, the Libya intervention, how much harder that would have been if we didn't have bases in Germany or if we didn't have bases in the Gulf Coast. So I think the problem with NATO is a broader problem of America, sort of a broader problem that America needs to sort of rethink its role in the world, I believe.
But Asha, I mean, it's a sticky situation, especially when it comes to Russia, as it sells its S-400 air defense system to NATO member Turkey, pushing the U.S. to then in turn stop delivering these F-35 fighter jets to Turkey in response. So is it safe to say U.S.-Russian relations are pretty much strained at this point? It's not happening?
Well, when you look at the position of NATO, there still is a value of the United States being in there. They have spent so many resources and time to support us in many of our key operations. So it is needed, especially in terms of Russian aggression. However, they are facing many challenges. And one is, just like you mentioned, where we have NATO members like Turkey buying foreign military sales from Russia, which is definitely a major cost when it comes to being a NATO member.
Jerrod, I'll ask you. Trump said today he has great respect for German leader Angela Merkel, though, despite being disappointed she's not handing over more money to NATO. I mean, one of the countries he's criticizing, but at the same time complimenting Germany for being a good partner and Angela Merkel for being a good leader.
Yeah, I think this is it's just sort of Trump speak. He speaks out of both sides of his mouth. Occasionally he says things that make some sense. I think the sort of the questioning of the commitment to NATO on the merit, I think, makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, he doesn't ever want to be caught in a situation where he feels like he's in a gotcha situation or whatnot. So he tends to speak out of both sides of his mouth there.
But if he follows through with this threat to pull the U.S. out of NATO, I mean, the impact there could be severe.
I mean, I just really don't think so. I mean, I'm not convinced that if if NATO disappeared tomorrow, Europe would not fall back into the bloodshed that we saw in the 20th century. France and England are both nuclear powers, so they have the nuclear deterrent. And we have to remember that a lot of the poisoning of the well with Russia was over NATO expansion in the first place. When George H.W. Bush, the promise was that we would not expand NATO eastward, and then what did we do as soon as the Soviet Union fell? We expanded NATO eastward, and it poisoned. And Russia sees that every expansion of NATO east, Russia sees that as a future jumping-off point for potential U.S. intervening in Russia. So NATO was involved in poisoning the well here from the get-go.
Asha, what do you think?